Have you ever found yourself unable to let go of someone, even after they've repeatedly hurt you? Maybe they stopped showing up. Maybe they changed. Maybe they left without becoming the person you hoped they would be. Yet somehow, your heart kept holding on. You told yourself, maybe this is love. But what if why you mistake attachment for love has less to do with your feelings, and more to do with what your heart has learned to fear? Most people believe love means needing someone so deeply that life feels incomplete without them. But that's rarely what healthy love looks like. Sometimes what feels strongest isn't love at all. It's attachment asking not to be abandoned. Today, we're going to explore why you mistake attachment for love, and how understanding this hidden difference can bring emotional healing, greater self-respect, inner peace, and the freedom to build healthier relationships with others and with yourself. One of the easiest mistakes to make is believing that intensity automatically means love. The more you think about someone, the more you worry, the more you fear losing them, the more convinced you become that your feelings must be real. But intensity and love are not the same thing. Attachment is often built on fear. Love is built on freedom. Attachment keeps asking, what if they leave? What if I lose this? What if I'm not enough? Love asks a different question. What is the right thing for both of us? Have you ever caught yourself thinking this way? Sometimes we don't miss the person. We miss how safe we believed they made us feel. And when that feeling disappears, our mind desperately tries to get it back. Not because the relationship was healthy, but because uncertainty feels painful. That's why people sometimes stay emotionally connected to situations that have already ended. They're not holding on to love. They're holding on to familiarity. The human mind naturally prefers familiar pain over unfamiliar peace, because at least familiar pain is predictable. Real love doesn't require constant fear to survive. It doesn't make you feel like your worth depends on another person's choices. Healthy love allows room for trust, for respect, for honesty, for growth. If your peace disappears every time someone else's behavior changes, it's worth asking whether you're protecting love or protecting attachment. That question isn't meant to create guilt. It's meant to create awareness, because awareness is where healing begins. Do you ever wonder why some people become impossible to forget, even when you know moving on would be healthier? Often, the answer isn't found in the other person. It's found in the emptiness they temporarily filled. Loneliness, self-doubt, the desire to feel chosen, the need to feel understood. Those are deeply human experiences. There is nothing shameful about them. But when another person becomes the only place where those needs seem to disappear, attachment quietly takes root. It begins convincing you that your peace depends on someone outside yourself. That's an incredibly heavy burden for any relationship to carry. No one can permanently give another person a sense of worth. No one can become another person's entire source of peace. That responsibility belongs within. Have you ever noticed how difficult days make attachment feel stronger? When life feels uncertain, the mind naturally searches for something familiar to hold on to. Sometimes that something becomes another person. Not because they're the answer, but because they temporarily distract us from our own discomfort. Emotional healing begins when we stop asking, who can complete me? And begin asking, what part of myself still needs compassion? That question changes everything, because instead of chasing reassurance, you begin building resilience. Instead of searching for someone to remove your fears, you slowly learn to sit with them, to understand them, and eventually, to outgrow them. The more peace you build within yourself, the less you'll confuse emotional dependence with genuine love. Because healthy love adds to a peaceful life. It isn't meant to replace one. One of the hardest truths to accept is this: your heart doesn't always miss what's healthy. Sometimes, it simply misses what's familiar. The routines, the messages, the expectations, even the emotional ups and downs. When something becomes familiar, your mind begins treating it as safe, even when it hurts. That's why letting go can feel frightening. Not because you're losing love, but because you're leaving behind something your mind has learned to expect. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, maybe I should go back? Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe things will be different this time. Those thoughts don't always come from love. They often come from discomfort with change. The unknown can feel more intimidating than familiar disappointment. That's why people sometimes return to situations they already know will leave them exhausted. Not because they've forgotten the pain, but because certainty feels easier than uncertainty. Real love doesn't require you to ignore your peace to preserve the connection. It doesn't ask you to shrink your values, silence your needs, or constantly question your worth. Healthy love allows you to remain yourself. Attachment quietly asks you to become someone else just to avoid losing what feels familiar. The more you learn to become comfortable with healthy change, the less power unhealthy familiarity has over you. Sometimes healing begins, not when someone returns, but when you stop treating familiarity as proof that something belongs in your life. Ask yourself one honest question. When you think about this person, or this situation, what grows stronger? Your peace, or your anxiety? That answer often reveals more than your emotions ever could. Attachment keeps your mind busy, creates endless questions. What are they thinking? Did I say something wrong? Why haven't they replied? What if they never come back? Your attention slowly becomes consumed by someone else's choices. Meanwhile, your own life quietly waits. Love feels different. Love still brings concern. Love still requires patience. But healthy love doesn't demand constant emotional survival. It allows room for trust, for respect, for healthy boundaries, for silence without panic, for distance without losing yourself. Do you ever wonder why peace feels so unfamiliar when attachment is strong? Because attachment trains your nervous system to expect uncertainty. And eventually, calm begins to feel strange. Some people mistake emotional chaos for deep connection, simply because chaos is what they've experienced most often. But healing invites you into something different. A relationship where respect matters more than control, where honesty matters more than fear, where self-worth doesn't rise and fall with another person's decisions. The strongest relationships don't constantly test your peace. They protect it. And perhaps the greatest act of self-respect is recognizing that if holding on continually costs you your inner peace, it may no longer be love you're protecting. It may simply be attachment you're afraid to release. So why do you mistake attachment for love? It isn't because your heart is weak. It isn't because you're incapable of healthy relationships. And it certainly isn't because you're meant to spend your life chasing people who cannot give you peace. More often than not, it's because attachment speaks the language of fear, while love speaks the language of freedom. Attachment tells you, don't let go. Love quietly asks, is this helping you become your best self? Those are very different questions. Have you ever noticed that the relationships which teach you the most aren't always the ones that last the longest? Sometimes they're the ones that reveal what still needs healing within you. They show you where fear has replaced trust, where dependence has replaced peace, where loneliness has convinced you to settle for less than respect. And once you recognize those patterns, you no longer have to repeat them. Why you mistake attachment for love isn't because your feelings aren't real. Your feelings are real. But feelings alone don't always reveal what's healthy. Real love doesn't ask you to lose yourself in order to keep someone else. It encourages patience. It strengthens self-respect. It allows honesty. It creates room for forgiveness without abandoning wisdom. And above all, it protects your inner peace instead of constantly taking it away. As you move forward, don't ask yourself, how do I make them stay? Instead ask, does this relationship help me grow in peace, dignity, and truth? That single question can change not only your relationships, but the relationship you have with yourself. Because healing doesn't begin the day someone finally understands your worth. Healing begins the day you stop measuring your worth by someone else's ability to see it. If this message spoke to your heart, share your thoughts below. How are you choosing healing over attachment today? If you found value in this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the motivation and healing community, where every week we explore emotional healing, inner peace, resilience, and the psychology of becoming your strongest self. Until next time, protect your peace. Choose what helps you grow. And remember, love sets you free. Attachment asks you to stay afraid.